Hi again, and welcome to episode 2 of this series of interviews we are doing at Universidad del Futuro, when we are talking to experts and specialists in futures and foresight from different countries of the world. Today, we have a very special guest, Darwin Antipolo. Darwin is from the Philippines and he's based in Singapore right now. He defines himself as a designpreneur, using design, technology, and the arts in his activities. He's also using visual thinking, serious play, and futures and foresight in his daily practice. He's also the founder and principal consultant at PXD Labs, a consultancy firm based in Singapore. I had the chance to meet Darwin at one of his workshops last April, and it was a wonderful experience because it was the very first time that I used Lego Serious Play, and he combines this knowledge, this methodology, with futures and foresight, more specifically with personal futures. It was a powerful tool, and I enjoy it very much. I'm very sure for that reason that you're going to like very much this interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Just remember that we are recording now our interviews in English, but in the next weeks we are going to subtitle them in Spanish. So Spanish speaking countries can also have access to this information and the language is not a barrier. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the interview.
Okay, here we are. I am with my friend Darwin Antipolo. He's in Singapore right now, and I'm very glad and I appreciate very much, Darwin, the fact that you accepted to do this interview with me. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank you for the invitation. I wouldn't miss this. I love connecting, and for me to even talk to you, you all the way there in Mexico and I'm in Singapore. It's like, yeah, that's crossing the bridges.
I know it's great, huh?
Fantastic. Yes, it is fantastic. Really,
Thank
really
you very
great.
much, Darwin. I really appreciate. And well, first of all, and I could introduce you, but I prefer, please, just why don't you introduce yourself? Who's Darwin Antipolo? What do you do,
Oh,
and why do you do that?
yep. Okay. Oh, I think I may have a treat because while waiting for us to go live, I created the model of myself.
Oh,
Um,
that's great, huh?
Yeah,
Excellent.
so I had some pieces of Lego here. And so this is me going to introduce myself. So thank you for inviting me again. I'm Darwin Antipolo. I'm Filipino, but I've been based here in Singapore for the last 15 years. And so I have a business. I've created a service design agency called PXD Lab, and that is the representation of my company right now. And
Great.
in my practice I have service design or design thinking as one of the pillars, and another one is called visual thinking, and the other one is serious play, and lastly and most recently futures and foresight. And so in my model you can see that I'm in the middle of where I am right now. The back represent this one represents where I have been. So for the past 25 years, I was in corporate, and so I was climbing the ladder of corporate, right? So I've been in the digital and the marketing technology space, crossing over agency life and agency and the client side. And so today, really, it's looking forwards, looking towards the future. I know there will be some hurdles, and that's a representation of this brick.
Oh,
But I'm really looking forward to achieving that goal of maybe this time around it's a life of significance, where I think the modest success that I have before was a life of achieving success. But this next chapter of my life with my agency and the things that I'm doing right now is a life of this one represents a life of significance. So really that's me. That's where you found me, Mao. And so this is my model I'm sharing with
excellent.
you. Any question to my model, Mao? You know the drill.
Yeah, I would love to ask you some things.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
well, you said the red one is like a hurdle, right? It's like a
Mm,
hurdle. Why
yes.
is it in red? Why not another color?
Oh, well, I think this is my Chinese in me. Red represents a lot of meaning in my culture, in our culture.
Hmm.
Red could be like fiery and bravery, but for me, it's danger. it's danger. And that's one thing I've learned last year, when I was dabbling in futures and foresight. These are the wild cards. These are the scenarios that we don't know and must be conscious and must be aware. And I think that's why one of the reasons why I've started dabbling on futures and foresight, just for me to get ready for this one. I know the future, we will encounter a lot of these red bricks.
Hmm.
So to be aware of it, before you even step out into the world,
Okay.
into this future, I
Okay.
think to see it and anticipate this red, wild card scenario would be
Oh,
the best way of being ready for our futures, right? So yeah, so it was like when I was building this model, I was like, oh, Mao's first question would likely be, who are you? I was like, let me do that in a model that I am comfortable sharing. So this is me, Mao.
and it's
This
great
is
that you did
who.
it that way because I think it's very clear and it explains very well what you do. You are a
Yeah.
professional of Lego series play, and I would love you to say like, what do you do, and how come that you found this methodology that I have experienced
Mm,
with you before. Actually, that's how
yes,
we met, and it was a great exercise, I must tell you. I'm
yes.
very glad that I did it. It was my first time with Lego series play. So
Mm.
how did you find this methodology and why did you do it now?
Yes, I think it was about 2018 when I was still in Manila. I was coming out of a fairly like a 2 year sabbatical. As I mentioned, I was like in corporate for 25 years, and the wife and I just traveled. And of course, Mexico was one of our destination, and we spent a lot of time there. We loved Mexico, and so when I came back to Manila, I know I wanted to set up this agency. But before that, I was dabbling with fintech and edtech because that was sort of like my training. That's the comfort zone. But then I realized I don't want to go back again to digital or marketing because I've been doing that. I want to do something new. And so I love the idea of working with people, with team, and I know I have the competency in design. And so you found me. I'm actually a self-identifying accidental designer. So no prior formal training in design. I just went into my own learning path and started dabbling in design, particularly in design thinking and service design. And so that's the foundation of the business that I set up. One of the things that I noticed would be it's the difficulty of explaining and opening up design. And so I scoured around for some tools, and I know I love games. I know I love play and playing. And so when I found Lego Series Play when I was still in Manila, it went to the path of like, oh, I love this methodology. I want to get certified. I want to be trained properly. Unfortunately, in Manila, the certification schedule was already closed. And so I had to fly to Singapore and take my certification. And from then on, I flew back again for the next few months in Manila and I applied it. Applying Lego Series Play could be one of those fantastic effort when you find or get trained with something new like Lego Series Play. So I was able to apply it in leadership strategy sessions. I was able to apply it in a company who's trying to define a corporate strategy for the following year, or team building, for example, or team identity. And so that became a staple in my design tool. So it's very useful for me, I think, for many things. In design, you need to open up the team. You need to open up conversation. And Lego Serious Play is a fairly good communication tool and also a problem solving tool. Um, and when you properly set up Lego Serious Play, as you've experienced, we open up a lot of avenues of narrative that sometimes it's hard for us to share or to communicate in written form. But when you're like probably telling your story based on the model that you've created,
Yeah.
something is accessed that would probably not be accessible. And I love it when you apply it. My main rara for Legacy Series Play is that in in a in a room wherein you have your CEO or maybe you have your frontliners, there is no job title, there is no position because your story, the stories that you make, is leveled in Lego Serious Play. So we listen to each story and we appreciate, we reflect on the story. So it's a very good tool that can be applied in many ways. And so yeah, to date, I've been using Lego Serious Play, applying it in so many aspects of my practice, and it's one of the pillars of my design practice, really.
That's great. And one of the things that I like the most when I knew this methodology with you is that
Mm,
you said that there's no, and you said something like that right now, like there's no right or wrong when you are
mhm.
working with these pieces, and that's something very important. It's just like if you feel like blank, if you don't have an idea of what to build, just do something and build something anyway, and
Yes,
somehow it always worked, and I think that's
yes.
amazing.
Yes, it's that accessing that unconscious or that latent information that is already there, but it needs a trigger. In futures and foresight work, we call it provocation, right? We might be provoked visually. We might be provoked by looking at a set of templates or a series of questions or images. Imagine being provoked into creating the narrative that you want based on the model that you've created. And as you said, not unlike the typical Lego build, wherein you buy a box, right?
Mhm.
And there's an instruction, build a wheel or an automobile. That's the traditional Lego build. But in Lego Series Play, there is no instruction. I just created the model. And as you said, which you clearly highlighted, which is one of the pillars, is that when you don't know the answer, just grab some bricks and start building. There's a science behind it, and I think for those that are interested in Lego Series Play, it'd be a nice exploration really of why that is the case.
It's very interesting because I also remember that time is very limited when you are
Mm,
working with this. I mean, if you can show us again your model, please. It's
yes.
like I'm sure that it's not like you were just planning what to build and it took you a long time. I'm very sure that you did this in a very short period of time, right?
Yes, very much so. I mean, there's not a lot of planning in it. It looked like it's so planned out, but I can tell you with my hand in my heart, it took me like maybe 3 minutes while waiting for things to happen. Like, oh, that's why I said I know Mao is going to ask me like who I am. So, what better way to introduce myself by creating my own model? And I haven't really done my own model and who I am, my who I am model. And it's like, okay, this is kind of like a nice provocation. And from Mao, not even knowing that he's now provoked me to tell something about me using my Lego model.
And it was a great idea, Darwin. It was
Yeah,
great. Thank you for doing
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
how long have you been working with Lego Series Play now?
Oh, I just started in 2018, really. Quite recent. There are many certified facilitators, many practitioners out there, and I'm sure in Mexico there will be a few there. Um, yeah, it's been I guess a few decades old already. In fact, when I discovered in 2018, I was like, where has this been all my life? Like I would have loved to have understood this and applied this when I was still in corporate or used it. But each has its own time, right? Maybe that's the best time for me to have discovered Lego Series Play. And maybe this discussion that we're having will trigger some interest in some of you yourself, your participants in trying to discover Lego Series Play. So
I'm
yeah,
sure.
go for it.
Yeah,
Discover.
I'm sure of that. And that's one of my purposes with this interview. I think it's very
Yes.
important. And how did you decide uh,
Mm.
to uh, to merge Lego Serious Play and all this expertise that you have in this
Mhm.
methodology with futures and foresight?
Ah.
How did you know about futures and foresight, and how did you decide to merge both things?
Yes. Well, I guess the story is we know the Lego story, right? So the Lego story, my Lego story started, Lego Series Play story started in 2018. But I think the common thread that we I'm sharing with you is that in March 2020, we all went through, I guess, the same experience, which is COVID happened. To share with you, my design practice is based mostly on face-to-face interaction, workshop facilitation. When COVID happened, everything like went haywire. My business was in a tailspin, and it was like for the next few months there was nothing. And so I, instead of like wallowing, it's like, oh, what will I do? I started reading up and started figuring out, I think, the way forward, and at the same time, what happened. This is not me to be caught surprised by something as big as this. And so that's when I discovered Futures and Foresight. In fact, so you can already date how young I am with Futures and Foresight, the domain, which is like just March of 2020. So I went very deep into learning Futures and Foresight. I was confused on why it's futures, not future. I love discovering that, and then the foresight framework of the so many experts that are out there. And in fact, I think I alluded to that in the model. This one represents that wild card, which is one of the scenarios that we could have created when we do scenario planning within the strategic foresight framework, right? And so that started off um, with trying to understand how I can probably apply some of the tools that I have, or at least the pillars of my practice, which is visual thinking, serious play, and service design. And so I identify myself as a hacker. Like I love mashing up things. I like to see if I have this and I have this, what will happen? And it's that transdisciplinary thing that excites me. And what becomes when you put one and one together. And so that's what I did. And last, when you found the workshop that I had, which is like a 2-hour workshop, that was just me experimenting. Actually, you were like the third in the session.
Mm.
And that's a progression of when I started with just 90 minutes and then 2 hours. So that's where the mashup came in. It's like my question or my what if statement is, what if I am able to hasten or at least introduce the process of personal futures using serious play methodology? Because at the beginning, I was not looking at Lego serious play, but other methodologies like maybe visual cards, right? And hasten that discussion. But I found this interesting only for the fact that it was very quick, and you picked it up really well when you said um, the time factor, the time element in building also puts pressure in terms of I don't have the luxury of overthinking my answers. And that's what the beauty of serious play, or in this instance like a serious play, is that you you tend to overthink if you are given time. And so just giving you like 3 minutes to build a model is like that. So yeah, that's where I am. It's really more of how do I bring forward futures literacy, which is now an advocacy that I am embracing
Mhm.
as part of like design thinking or design thinking literacy. Futures literacy is one, and specifically in the big domain of futures and foresight, what I've figured out is that maybe I'm with this methodology exploring the personal futures aspect of it would benefit some of our people in terms of trying to understand where they should be going or defining this future self that I am now sort of like embracing as an advocacy.
Right. And I
So
think it's very innovative what you have created with this because when you combine uh, the Lego series play with futures and
mm,
foresight, something wonderful happens. And you built this methodology, and now you're using it. I think I'm right with this in saying this. Like you're using it with personal futures. And
Yes, I'm.
yeah,
Yes, I'm a big fan of the giants in the futures and foresight world. Vern Wheelwright, who has a personal futures documentation. I stumbled upon his work. I fell in love with it, and in the design world, there is this book called "Designing Your Life" by two Stanford um, guys named Burnett and Evans, and I also fell in love with that book. In fact, I think it's a methodology already that they're trying to use in training people called Designing Your Life. That's the book. They even have a worksheet. So for me, it's like uh, maybe I can have something that I can combine this two and with looking at play and how I think I always try and find a fun element or a play element when I do workshops or I train people because it sticks. I mean, the learning sticks when you are having fun. And especially, I think you highlighted this in one of our post conversation is that the persistency of the memory that you create in the model. You can revisit the model even with just a picture, and you can tell which element of these Legos represent something that you've just shared. It's the persistency of the memory of the model. You will appreciate that. I've heard a lot of my participants say, I revisit the strategy plan that we've created, so many pieces, but then I can tell which one is which and which is this path and why did we create this one. So it's really one of those key factors in serious play. And yes, of course, now in personal futures, um, there's a room for canvases, templates. In fact, that's another challenge. How do we marry? Um, it's creating these kinesthetic skills that are out there, the sensorial experience of learning,
mhm,
when even your eyes uh, are speaking, your eyes are also being used to read the models that you've created, right? Instead of like just reading text. So yeah, it's an interesting environment of like learning this contrasting, maybe not opposing, but contrasting domains and try and see where it ends up.
right. And you've been doing workshops with this personal futures methodology with Lego Series Play. And
Mm.
what has been your experience with it, and what's for you forward with this
Oh,
methodology?
yes, yes. I I did I did a bit of like three workshops sessions with professionals. In fact, I can create a line in the participants: the futurist, foresight practitioners, and the serious play practitioners.
Mhm.
There are a few profile that sits in between that don't have like experience, and it's really more of like, hey, I'm just curious by just the name that you created, defining your future self. So what I've learned is that um, if you if you give agency to the participants by opening up the conversation in a fun and playful way, um, I was really surprised, and I think you will see this, you would have experienced it. I'm surprised at the the clarity and the quality of the narration, especially when I'm provoking the participants into projecting forward, where we're trying to define the different futures, the possible futures that are there. Um, and I want to further that because you notice we just looked at one dimension. Like I also gave you the freedom to um, identify which dimension is important now, and maybe you want to carry forward in the future space, this future environment, and see where that leads you. We stopped at sort of like a modified backcasting. and made that as a homework for you after I've given you the that aha moment for me also was to capture the models, put that into a board which you can reflect on and see, because 2 hours is not enough for you to do a bit of like backcasting. So hopefully some of our participants would have done that, but I would have liked to have stretched that a bit, maybe an hour more, and apply some backcasting technology, methodology into that. I think moving forward, and if you are a student also of this wonderful world of personal futures with Wheelwright and Burnett and Evans, you know that there's more. And I'm exploring a bigger program that addresses this, and I have structure for it. Maybe I need a few more volunteers later on to try out this big program, and so yeah, that's keeping me busy for the next few months, and see where it goes.
Great. Count on it. Count on it.
Yeah, yes.
And so you are offering workshops now?
Yeah, yes, because of our situation now in Singapore, some of my face-to-face workshops and trainings have to be either postponed, or some of those that are adventurous and say, you know what, I think we're able to establish that we can do our workshop and facilitation remotely or online. So let's go for that one. So by default right now, I'm online and remote. Virtual, definitely.
But that's great, because that way people here in Latin America, on this side of the world, can
Hmm.
also look for your workshops and take one of them, right?
Yes. Oh, it's an open invitation for everyone. I was surprised that you stumbled upon it when you came in. And I was like, "Hey, Mao is in Mexico. What time is it there?" Everyone was trying to figure out. It's like, how early is Mao like waking up for this? And we have friends from Europe and all the way down to Australia trying out that workshop that we did, the defining for your future self, right? Yeah, so it'd be nice to have participants from Latin America, from Mexico, and yeah, to try it out.
That's great. And at the end of the interview, please just let us know your social media and your,
Mm.
I don't know, your Facebook, your Twitter, and just tell us how can we find you so we can.
Yeah. Oh, I'm always best to be found at LinkedIn. Although I'm in Facebook, I'm in Twitter. Remember, I was with digital marketing before, so I have to try all of this. So I'm probably there. So yeah. So we'll drop a LinkedIn note in LinkedIn link in wherever we post this video.
We will have those links here for you guys in case you want to take a workshop with Darwin. I totally recommend it.
Yeah,
It's a
great.
very transformative experience. I have done it before. I know what I say. So
Yes.
yeah, that's great, Darwin. And now I would like to ask you, um,
Mm,
being from Philippines, the Philippines, and living
mm,
now in Singapore, what's your perspective on on the future or the futures that we're gonna
mm,
live in the next I don't know, next 10 years, in terms of well, what is happening now, the trends, the
mm.
signals that we are looking and that we are
Yep.
just seeing in the world. But how do you think the futures are going to be in Asia,
Uh-huh.
the rest of the world? And I would like to know your opinion, how future is going to be here in Latin America from your perspective.
Oh my, that's a big, humongous question that may need another hour, Mao.
I know.
But I love to imagine a future that is positive. There's a lot of negativity, I think, that we have right now, but I am a an optimist by, I guess, by the values that I have embraced when I was growing up, and even the decision to move from Philippines to Singapore just so that I can expound on my career and see where it will bring me in the world of digital marketing. So I'm I'm really more optimistic that this what we're going through is a learning experience. I think I will be very disappointed if we don't learn from what is happening right now and carry forward those learnings into the things that we're doing, regardless of whether you're in the Philippines or Singapore or in Latin America or in Mexico or anywhere in the world, right? Um, I think the crisis would have been a failure if we have not learned anything. And for me, really, I'm really more curious to see in the next few years what are those increments that we're sort of like recalibrating based on the futures or the futures that we're seeing. It's still hazy for me. Those futures, at least from me, from a country perspective, because there's so many elements in it, and maybe that's the reason why I defaulted to something that I probably know best, which is going into the internal, the self, right? um, and I may probably leave the experts, the nation builders, with for public policy. And I'm now an advocate of futures and foresight. The world, I think, needs futures literacy as part of our DNA, because if we don't, I think we're going to fail um, in that opportunity of doing something. Because we always say, and this is one thing I've learned when I've sort of like dabbled into futures and foresight. Like when we talk about the future of futures, it's really not about that. It's really about now, right? And so that's what I love when I discovered futures and foresight. In as much as there's this romanticized version of like utopian or dystopian discussions of the futures or the possible futures, it's really, it all comes down, okay, now we know these are the possible futures, or maybe that's your preferred future, but what are you going to do now? And I love that. What are you going to do now? We create the models probably of the future, but hey, these models are interchangeable. It's still something that we have agency to move. I just picked up my fear and probably placed that here in front. Oh, now it fell. And maybe that's that's a good metaphor. Maybe I don't need to even look at that
What hurdle,
those
right?
red, yeah, those hurdles, because there will always be hurdles, and I think that's the thing that we need to probably start embracing in our
Thank you, Darwin. And we're almost done. We're
yes.
approaching to the end of our interview, and I'm very sad for that because I would love to talk with you for a long, long time. I have done,
We can have part two, Mao. Don't worry, and part three, part four.
yeah,
We
of
can
course,
serialize this.
and I think we will have because it's
Yeah.
very important that everybody, especially here in Latin America, I think
Mm,
it's important that we know what people like you are doing in other regions of the world, because you're a designer, you're a professional on Lego Serious Play, and
mhm,
now you are approaching to the futures and foresight discipline, and I think that's very important to know what's going on, what other people are doing in other regions of the world. And
mhm.
that leads me to my last question for you today, Darwin. Um,
Yep.
what would you say to people here in Latin America, not only in my
Mm,
country, but in all Latin America, people
mhm,
interested uh, on maybe designers, maybe some other professionals, people interested on what you are doing now,
mhm,
and maybe they like the way that you are taking, maybe they want to do something like that in here. What would you say to them? Go ahead.
Oh, yep. Oh my gosh. I think my worldly wisdom would be like wherever you are right now or wherever you find yourself, like when I was doing this model, right? I'm here in creating this. I think it's have this explorer mindset. Embrace that fully because that will open up a lot of pathways of possibilities and opportunities, even for things that may not be clear in what you're seeing right now. If you are like me, when COVID happened, um, and I think it's still going to persist, and there will be more COVIDs, variation of that in the future. I think metaphorically that I'm referring to scenarios that we are not sure, but I think having that appreciation that the future is not always clear. Um, when you embrace that curiosity, explorer mindset, and not just be constrained of where you are comfortable, where it is safe to be in, explore those fringes, explore those areas that you don't normally go to or read or visit, and just be astounded by the things that happens in your mind. Because I love that idea, and I think that's my main value structure, which is like um, I'm curious. I need to understand and help me answer my what if. So that's why I love design. How might we? Right? Even just that simple question of how might we. There's a lot of opportunity in that. Imagine, imagining having that questioning mind of what if, how might we. In fact, I always tell now my friends who have young kids, don't ask your kids questions like what do you want to be when you grow up. Start asking them what problem do you want to solve, right? And it's just so very different because someone told me that it's like, if I had a smaller kid or a younger kid, maybe I should start asking that. So now even my brothers, my sisters say, my nephews, my nieces, don't ask them, well, when you grow up, what do you want to be? Just ask them, what problems are you going to be solving? Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the my very simple and practical worldly wisdoms that I want to share because it has helped me um, weather through a lot of struggles, even this classic scenario that we're in right now. It's helping me through because of that explorer curiosity mindset that it was innately in me. I think. I'm basically that. So find that explorer mindset, explorer in you, and go out and have fun. Just have fun. Play with it.
Great. Exactly. Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's also very important to have fun. And I think
Yes.
what you do as a professional of Lego Serious Play and as a professional in Foresight and Futures, I think that's exactly what you're doing. And
Mm.
is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you would like to say, Darwin?
Oh no, I'm really looking forward to connecting with people in Latin America, in Mexico. I love having that connection. I know we are at the situation where we're not able to travel, but I'm actually looking at it in a positive way also, and not in another way, because with Zoom, with just linking up in LinkedIn, for example, it just breaks down the border. Although I love to see you face to face, but if I get to talk to you like in Zoom, in meeting you in workshop, I'll take that. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And I am sure that this is going to be great, this interview, to watch it, to know you for people here in Latin America. I think
Mhm.
it's been really interesting. And just remember that your social media and the links
Yes.
where I and the rest of us we can find you are going to be
Yes.
here. Just check them out, and
Yep.
you're going to have some workshops very soon. So
Yes.
I hope that many people from all the countries here in Latin America can sign for some of your workshops because really, believe me, they are great. They're going to help you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mao.
Now, thank you,
Thank
Darwin.
you.
Thank you for your time, and see you very soon in part 2 then.
Yes. Oh my goodness me. Yes. By all means, just say so, Mao. I'm there. Just have conversation with you. Love having this conversation, Mao. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darwin. Good night in Singapore, and bye-bye. See you soon.
Thank you.